Ahoy hoy, I'm Planarwalk, and I'm here to tell you that you actually believe in the Greek gods. You see, people tend to think of the Greek gods as actual physical beings, but there's a bit of a problem with this logic. It ignores the mindset of the Greeks at the time. When looking at it from this perspective, it is reasonable to assert that these gods likely didn't have a physical manifestation. However, due to the limited knowledge of the people at the time, they realized that this natural phenomena that we see, such as lightning and such as our internal feelings, our consciousness, had to be represented in some way due to its importance in the culture. They needed a cultural manifestation. Over time, due to the naturalistic explanations of these phenomena, such as lightning, we have tended to say that these gods are more of a myth than reality, when in actuality they're a truth, they're a sort of meta-truth about the human psyche. To say that you don't believe in Zeus is to say that you don't believe in overthrowing tyrannies to create better life, to be in a more ideal situation. To say that you don't believe in Uranus is to say that you don't believe in buttholes. But of course, as many of you people probably have worked out, this argument is bullshit. Sure, I can try and make a case for the Greek gods by ripping away any attachment to supernatural that it has, but it doesn't mean that you believe in them. For me to have a meaningful conversation with someone about Greek gods, I have to arrive at an understanding with that person about what we mean. You see, recently I was watching the debate between Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris in Vancouver, and Jordan Peterson had a very interesting definition of God.
What do you mean by God?
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you some of the things that I mean by God. Okay. Okay, well, I'm going to read some things that I wrote because it's so complicated that I'm not sure that I can just spin it off the top of my head, and so you'll have to excuse me. And what I'm going to do is sort of paint a picture by highlighting different things. So now I already made one point here. I made the point that part of the conception of God that underlies the Western ethos is the notion that whatever God is expressed in the truthful speech that rectifies pathological hierarchies. And that isn't all it does. It also confronts the chaos of being itself and generates habitable order. That's the metaphysical proposition. And that's best conceptualized as at least one element of God. And so I would think about it as a transcendent reality that's only observable across the longest of time frames, the longest of iterated time frames, to your point. So here's some propositions, and they're complicated, and they need to be unpacked. So I'm just going to read them, and that'll have to do for the time being. So God is how we imaginatively and collectively represent the existence and action of consciousness across time, as the most real aspects of existence manifest themselves across the longest of time frames, but are not necessarily apprehensible as objects in the here and now. So what that means in some sense is that you have conceptions of reality built into your biological and metaphysical structure that are a consequence of processes of evolution that occurred over unbelievably vast expanses of time, and that structure your perception of reality in ways that it wouldn't be structured if you only lived for the amount of time that you're going to live. And that's also part of the problem of deriving values from facts, because you're evanescent and you can't derive the right values from the facts that portray themselves to you in your lifespan, which is why you have a biological structure that's like 3.5 billion years old. So God is that which eternally dies and is reborn in the pursuit of higher being and truth. That's a fundamental element of hero mythology. God is the highest value in the hierarchy of values. That's another way of looking at it. God is what calls and what responds in the eternal call to adventure. God is the voice of conscience. God is the source of judgment and mercy and guilt. God is the future to which we make sacrifices and something akin to the transcendental repository of reputation. Here's a cool one if you're an evolutionary biologist. God is that which selects among men in the eternal hierarchy of men. So, men arrange themselves into hierarchies, and then men rise in the hierarchy. And there's principles that are important that determine the probability of their rise, and those principles aren't tyrannical power. They're something like the ability to articulate truth and the ability to be competent and the ability to make appropriate moral judgments. And if you can do that in a given situation, then all the other men will vote you up the hierarchy, so to speak, and that will radically increase your reproductive fitness. And the operation of that process across long expanses of time looks to me like it's codified in something like the notion of God the Father. It's also the same thing that makes men attractive to women, because women peel off the top of the male hierarchy, and the question is what should be at the top of the hierarchy, and the answer right now is tyranny as part of the patriarchy, but the real answer is something more like the ability to use truthful speech in the service of, let's say, well-being. And so that's something that operates across tremendous expanses of time, and it plays a role in the selection for survival itself, which makes it a fundamental reality.
Jordan, if I can I just cut in here with one question.
I'll stop with that for now.
You see, Jordan Peterson might have well just said, God is the underlying mechanics of the universe. He would have been no more correct and no more wrong than he was. But I do take an issue with redefining God in the way that Jordan Peterson does. So the Bible gives a pretty good explanation of what it means by God. Now we've gone ahead and we've worked out, wait, what's this here? It says, then God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. Hang on, that's not correct. I don't see any firmament. Although, if you're a flat earther, that's a different story, but this is not a video about flat earthers. This is a video about redefining God. So, because we worked out that it was incorrect, a lot of the Christians went, well, that part of the Bible isn't literal. You hear this from Christians all the time. They say, well, that didn't literally happen. It's just symbolism. And, that is okay. But the more you do it, the more you realize that they're just trying to hold on to this worldview that they have so tightly. And that's what I think Jordan Peterson is doing. He's trying to hold on to this worldview. But the thing is, he's taken it to the extreme! Now, the way that Jordan Peterson describes God seems to be concepts based on concepts. So what I mean by that is his idea of God is just a concept, right? But it's based on another concept, the concept of morality. Now, I don't see a good reason to define God as a concept. Much like me defining Zeus as a concept is equally as valid as what Jordan Peterson says. Yet, it doesn't give me the authority to go around saying, well, you and you and you believe in Zeus because you believe this. Because Jordan Peterson's definition of God doesn't have any impact on reality other than what we make of it, I see no reason to call it God. Now, it could be that Jordan Peterson is redefining God so that society adopts his meaning of God and therefore becomes more religious. However, I don't think that a religious society is a better society. I think that what Jordan Peterson's aim is to create a society which is more religious, so it will therefore be better. I do not think that a religious society is a better society. Now, I'm going to make a video on this in the future, so if you have any arguments for why a religious society is better, let me know. But anyway, that's it for that video. Leave a like and subscribe if you like that video. Leave a comment of what you think of Jordan Peterson's new definition of God. Do you think that there's more validity to it, or do you think that I missed out on some criticism? Be sure to let me know in the comments. But anyway, I will see you in the next video. Between you and me, thank you for watching.
So I was not hearing in that list of attributes a God who could care if anyone masturbated.